This is the Jess Walhoff Broadcasting Network on air, a podcast about trail and ultra running, but really, it's about becoming who you are meant to be. I'm your host, Jess Walhoff, inviting you into conversations about resilience, wonder, and the quiet magic of putting one foot in front of the other. Out on the trail, we learn to move our mountain, not by force, but by presence and persistence. And in that movement, we find joy in the journey. Welcome to the JWBN On Air podcast. I'm your host, Jess Walhoff, and today you just have me on the other end of the mic here. So thank you for tuning in and listening. And today, at the end of the weekend, a very long weekend, we are just going to weekend recap this weekend for you. It was my third ultra weekend in a row. So 2 weeks ago was Crazy Bear Ultra, where I volunteered. We did a whole little podcast on that, and you can check out last week's podcast where Jeff and I touched very briefly on it for some information on that one. Last weekend, I also ran a 30-mile run just for my own little ultra silly goal I have for the year. So did a 30-mile run just to get my ultra in for the month. Did that all on pavement, some bike trail, and then lots around my neighborhood, and it was done because it was all on pavement, but it got done. So that was my 2 weeks of ultraing in a row. And for my third week of ultraing, is that a word? We're making a word. Third week of ultras in a row. This week I was able to go out to Custer, South Dakota, way out on the west end of the state, and attend the Lean Horse Ultra Marathon. A little bit background on the Lean Horse here is that it is, I believe, the 33rd sanctioned 100-mile race in the U.S. So kind of puts them up with one of the OGs of ultras or 100-mile races. So that's a pretty cool fact. It also features the Mickelson Trail, which is a rails to trail. For those don't know, I know just a little bit about the Mickelson Trail, as I have I established the FKT on the Mickelson Trail, and it and I have a bit of history together. But a little breakdown of the Mickelson Trail. It is a rails to trail that was established, I believe, in the 90s. So it used to be a railroad that ran from Deadwood to Edgemont, or maybe vice versa, transporting. Back then, the OG for the rail line was carrying uranium. Then did some people traveling too. And it runs through the heart of the hills. Deadwood, I believe, sits just over a mile high, if you didn't know that. Custer, where the race takes place, is about 66-ish miles south of Deadwood. And that also sits about 5,000 feet of elevation. And then Edgemont is south of Custer. I don't know the elevation of Edgemont, maybe 4,000, maybe 3,500, who knows. Anyway, so that's about 45 miles south of Custer. The race, primarily takes place on the Mickelson Trail. Since it's a rails to trail, very slow, steady grades, nothing more than really a 4% grade throughout that whole race. So it looks pretty easy and flat-ish. You know, there are some hills projected in there, but again, looks pretty easy, flat on paper. But turns out paper is not the same as real life, if you haven't figured that one out. The hills are much more realistic in real life than they are on paper. And they do come at you a little bit, especially the farther you go on that trail, which people get to learn that fun lesson usually that first time out there. But it is a great first-time event for anybody looking to take on maybe the next step in their running distance-wise, because they do offer a variety of distances. Starting out with the 100, of course, that starts on Friday at noon, and then Saturday at 5 a.m. the 50 mile starts. The 30 and 20 miles start together Saturday at 8 a.m. And between the starts of those two, and maybe afterwards, I'm not sure, there is also the 30-mile CrossFit edition, which you can do individually or with a team of 3 or 6. And a little bit of how that works is you start out at the start and you have to do, I think, like 3 exercises of CrossFit, whatever that is, maybe rowing, maybe bent ball slams, maybe kettlebell swings, farmer's carries. Anyway, there's 3 specific exercises you have to do, then take off and run about 5 miles to the next aid station. And if you're doing it as a team, I think you swap out there, then the next person does their 3 exercises, which are going to be different, and then they run the next 5-ish miles to the next aid station. So it's about a 5-mile run between aid stations for the 30-mile CrossFit edition, with some lifting in between, which kind of sounds fun until it doesn't. But it kind of sounds fun and intriguing. But otherwise, you can just do the 20-mile, 30-mile, 50-mile, or the whole shebang with the 100-mile for this race. So I was able to go out there with a family friend, Hannah Van Dyke. She is from my hometown of Edgerton, Minnesota. She is still living back home there. But yeah, we kind of grew up together. So our families have been friends for a very long time. Her brothers are about the same age as my brother. She and her sister are on either end of my sister's age. And then I was in the middle of the boys and the girls. But our families got along great. I love going over to their farm to play, because who doesn't love somebody else's farm? New things to explore. They had horses. I'd love to go see their horses. And usually they had some huskies, and sometimes they'd have husky puppies, and who doesn't love that? So great childhood memories playing with the Van Dyke kids growing up. And so I've known Hannah for probably since she was a baby. And she ran a track in high school. I remember she was on a track team with my sister, and together on a relay team, they were actually able to take down, set a new school record in a relay, and the record that they had broken. Hannah actually replaced her mom's name on that record, and my sister replaced our aunt's name on that record. So the next generation of Walhoff girls took down the former generation, with some other teammates, of course, in that relay, which, going back to Walhoff reference, so Hannah is also a distant cousin of mine. I'll let you do the math, but our grandpas were cousins. Our great-grandpas would have been brothers. Our great-great-grandpa is the same guy, and he immigrated from the Netherlands. So that puts us at, what, 6% same DNA or something like that. So distantly related to, but also family friends. So yeah, just a little bit of family friend background with Hannah. She ran track in high school, like I said, and after college she started running some more. Started to slowly pick up some distance, has done quite a few half marathons and marathons, and she loves a good relay event. So like she does Ragnar relays, and last year she did the Mickelson 100-mile relay, which I forgot to mention. That is an option too for the Lean Horse Ultra, is the Lean Horse 100-mile relay. So I think you can have a team of up to 5 individuals. You swap out at the aid stations running legs. Last year, I know there was a girl on her team that was a little scared to run in the dark by herself, which I don't blame her, but she was scared to run in the dark by herself. So Hannah actually ran an extra leg and ran with that girl on her leg of the relay. So she had picked up some extra miles there. And so I think Hannah had covered just over 33 miles last year while running her legs of the relay. So she had a little bit of ultra in her. Then it wasn't one continuous 33-mile stretch, but still 33 miles over, I forget how fast their team had done it. They finished at like 3:30 in the morning last year, and they started at noon, so that gives us 15-ish hours. Math is hard, so something like that. So in 15-ish hours, she had covered 33 of those miles for her team. So she's got some legs under her and some experience with the trail as well, which kind of is what drew her back to running the Lean Horse Ultra. But yeah, this was going to be her first ultra, taking on the 50-mile distance there. So she, back in January, was talking to me, texting me about it, and she actually asked if I would run it with her. I'm like, girl, it's in August. I don't do well with heat. I would just slow you down. So that's a no from me to actually run with you, but I would definitely come out and help you if you need it. So she took me up on that, and so Thursday she and her parents came, picked me up, and we drove out to Custer. Friday we went to the start of the 100-mile, saw the 100 miles off. I was able to quick say hi to my friend and JWBN athlete Britt, who was taking on the 100-mile out there. Gave her a quick good luck hug and sent her on her way. So that was fun to see them all take off for the 100. And then Hannah and her dad were able to pick up their packets because her dad was actually running the 20-mile race. He wasn't planning on it until just a few weeks ago when his Ragnar race was actually canceled, and that's supposed to be in a few weeks. So wasn't timing kind of worked out, but anyway, so he kind of last minute signed up for the 20-mile, which was going to be his longest distance he's ever ran as well. So they got their packets, and then we did a little exploring, did a short hike around Sylvan Lake, and a little bit of hiking on the cathedral spires, and then drove the Needle Highway, so they got a little bit of touristy-ish done back to our campground. And then we had an early wake-up call on Friday morning because Hannah's race started at 5 a.m. So we got over to the track, got those 50 milers off, was able to catch my friend Tom from the Black Hills before he started his crewing duties for friend Chris, who was also running the 50 mile. And then the 50 mile, so like I said, it all takes place on the Mickelson Trail. The 100 mile starts in town. They hit the trail and they run 50 miles to the north, so about 17 miles or so from Deadwood. They turn around and come back south. So they don't see the whole trail because you're missing that whole 40 miles, 45 miles from Custer to Edgemont, and they're missing, 15 or so miles of the northernmost part of the trail. But they do get to see a good chunk of the trail. Anyway, so they did that. They start with the 50 mile. They start and they actually go south just a little bit, 2 miles. I don't know that they actually really even get out of Custer before they turn around, and then they come back through kind of the area they start. So we stood around, saw them at mile 4, rang our cowbells, cheer them on, and then they will continue on to the mountain trailhead is the first aid station for the 50, which is about 8.5 miles in. So Lois and I got in the truck, left him for the start of his 20, which started at 8 a.m. Left him there with his things, got in the truck, tried to hit up a gas station for coffee and bathroom. They weren't open yet, so we went on to crew Hannah, saw her through the first aid station. Right when we got there, got a call from Tim. He had left his bib in the truck. So after we crewed Hannah at the first aid station, we turned around, went back to Custer, got Tim his bib, hit up the gas station, which was now open so we could have our coffee, and then took back off to Orville, which is the second aid station. Crewed Hannah through there. I mean, early on, I think the temps were just below 60. So much cooler, dry air than what we've had. So very nice running weather for them to start out, especially early morning. So she's looking great, feeling great. After Orville, she had another 5-ish miles to Hill City. So we got there. Again, looked great when she was coming through there. She's about 19, I think, miles in when she gets to Orville or to Hill City. She looks fantastic, of course, because 19 miles, and it's been a great day of running so far, and the last 10 miles have been downhill. So sent her on her way there, and then this is a very easy race to crew. If I haven't said that already, it's a very easy race to crew because all these trailheads so far have been pretty much right off the trail, or right off the main drag, easy to find. After Hill City, a little off the main drag, a little farther off the main drag, but still not hard to find. Fortunately, from my FKT experiences on the Mickelson, I have all these trailheads pinned in my phone and maps downloaded already. I really didn't have to do any research as to how to get to places. I know how to get out to all these places when I'm running on the trail because that's been my FKT experience. So I was like, I'm pretty sure I have an idea. I know the directions I need to go, but not sure quite on the road. So it was nice to have that little backup in Google to get to the turnaround, which was the Redford Aid Station. It's a 7.9 stretch from Hill City, slight incline on this part on their way out there, and then the sun is starting to do its thing at this point of the day as well. We got out there, had missed the first 2 lead runners for the 50 miles. Things are starting to spread us apart, but we did see Tara Nuss come in there for the turnaround. She was at that point leading the women's race for the 50 miles. She's from Sioux Falls, and she was looking great and moving good. Not soon after Tara got out of there, Chris Riley, again mentioned him, he's a friend from the Black Hills, showed up, and Tom crewed him from there, and Dan Berkey was there as well, giving all of his wisdom. So it was great to catch up with those guys for a little bit, and then wait around a little bit, and then Hannah showed up, and yeah, she was feeling that little bit of 8 mile uphill, shaking out her legs a little bit. Sun was starting to get to, well, not starting to get to her, but sun had made its presence known. So we went with a cooling towel around her neck, got her pickles, and sent her on her merry way. She still looked great and always had a good attitude. So then that was her turnaround. So from there we went back to Hill City, and actually, so the 20-mile race had started at 8, and we had done the math of what Tim was hoping to run, and I figured he would hit his turnaround right around 10 a.m., somewhere between 10 and 10:15. I had done the math that Hannah wouldn't be back to Hill City until closer to 11. So we got in the truck at 9:45, and I'm like, we might be able to catch Tim. Let's try it. So we went all the way to Orville again to see if we could find him. I got there, and then when we had got there about 10:05, I noticed I had a text from Tim that he had said he's almost to the turnaround at 9:55. And I'm like, oh, maybe we missed him. But we went to his drop bag, and it hadn't been touched yet. So I'm like, oh, we're here. We'll wait for you. And he's like, okay, almost there. I'm like, by the time I had sent him that text, it had been 15 minutes since he had said almost to the turnaround. I'm like, okay, wonder what happened. Oh well. But we waited about 15 more minutes for him, and he wasn't there. And I was like, oh, we should maybe get to Hill City, start turning around just in case, so we can make sure we're ready for Hannah. Since Tim had his drop bag, we were just hoping to, be the boost he needed to see him. So we got back in the truck, had seen no sign of Tim coming down the trail the way he should have been from the north or from the south. My truck, it was Hannah's truck. I had to drive a F-150, and I managed to drive that in a tight space or two and come out alive, and like her truck was unscathed and unscratched from me driving it. So I am proud of my driving abilities with her truck from that weekend. Anyway, so we got back in the truck. I'm facing south, but I have to go north to Hill City. So I drive about half a mile till I find an entrance that I can do a U-turn in. U-turn, so we're driving back through past that Orville aid station, and all of a sudden we see Tim running through it, and we were very confused, like why we hadn't seen him coming down the trail, all of that, and then the timing. But anyway, we knew he was alive. He had made it to the turnaround. So we get down to Hill City. We take care of Hannah there again. Heat's coming, starting to be a thing, but she's been smart with her pacing throughout and has been patient and persistent throughout. So she's still looking good, being smart with her intake of fluid and calories, more pickles, all of that good stuff. So we take care of her, send her on her way, and as we're packing up, I found Britt, who, like I said, she had been running the 100-mile race, and she just has 85 miles to go at this point. She had been through the ringer already, though. Some exciting things. She had gotten rained on the day before, which led to, like, everything was pretty much chafing for her. We'll just leave it at that. She had had a mountain lion encounter overnight. She didn't have any pacers, so she was solo, and she survived that. She had linked up with, I think, a relay team of girls, so she wasn't completely alone after that incident, but still, that's quite terrifying. That does something to you psychologically, I think. But here she was at mile 85, still pushing through despite nauseousness, stomach going the wrong direction again, chafe everywhere, the drama of a mountain lion on the trail the night before, all of that. And here she is. She still looked, she may be putting on a brave front for me, but still she looked great. She was still trying to be as upbeat as she could be. She's just a ray of sunshine. So I think we shared some pickle juice and pickles with her and put them on ice because that sounded good. And her mom was just doing a fantastic job of crewing her. So yeah, saw Britt there, gave her some encouragement, and then we were out of Hill City back to Orville for Hannah. When we got there, we checked Tim's drop bag, and yeah, it had been touched this time, so we took that with us. Hannah came through, took some time with some fluids and cooling again. We ended up, I think at this point, double fisting it with her water bottles instead of singling it because of the heat. Again, she had been very consistent with her pace, and after Orville. We sent her on the way, just one more aid station for her to go, about a 5.5 mile trip. And so Lois and I got back in the truck, went back to the mountain, got there, stayed in our truck for a little bit with the AC running because that felt nice. I'm not sure how warm it got. I think it was supposed to get up to maybe 85 or 87 in Custer. Hill City was supposed to be 91. One of the things about the Mickelson, once the sun is up there are trees and pine trees, but they ain't doing anything when the sun is directly above you. So there's a lot of sun exposure, and then that limestone just kind of soaks up and radiates that heat back at you. So like I said, everything looks easy on paper until it's not. So yeah, we got to the mountain and getting things ready for Hannah, and I saw she had sent a text about needing more fluids again when she gets there. She hasn't eaten anything since the last aid station because she welcomed herself to ultra running and had her first throw up experience while running. So welcome to ultra running, Hannah. We're glad you got to experience that. Kind of glad. It's just a rite of passage, I think. But yeah, she puked and rallied, continued on, got herself to the mountain, and more cold water on her towel, more water intake, more fluid intake. We tried a potato. She took, I think, 2 bites, and she's like, nah. But she had some body armor, so that had some calories in it for her. And I said, you only have 4.5 miles to go. You've been doing good with food intake up until this last, hour, but you've drank this much calories and are drinking this much calories, and we're sending you with this many more calories to drink if you're able to keep that down. I'm not concerned about your calorie intake for the last 4.5 miles, that you'll still be fine. So I think that was just the reassurance she needed, just having a little bit of experience behind the crewing. And then also always having your mom there is always good too. So Lois did a great job there. So yeah, we sent her on the way for the last 4.5 and got to, at that point I sent a text to Tim again saying, hey, we're on our way to the finish line. We'll find you there. We get to the track which is where the finish line is, and there's no text from Tim. And we couldn't find him underneath the bleachers, like in front of the track. And so we're getting a little worried. I pulled up there was a tracking system, which wasn't always reliable, but it was always at least reliable for the finish. And I had seen he had finished the race. So I'm like, I know he's finished. He's got to be around somewhere. So Lois went around, and she eventually had found him. He was behind the bleachers in the shade hanging out with somebody else. And he had finished his race. Turned out he had taken a little extra mile detour on his race, continuing a mile beyond the aid station, because he likes to keep things interesting, I guess. So he made his 20-mile run, his longest run, into an even longer run of 22 whole miles. So now we're trying to convince him he could just as well do a marathon, because that's pretty much the same. And then after that, he can do, an ultra marathon, because, he's young enough to do that in his mid-60s. Why not? But anyway, so he had finished. So congrats to Tim. I think he ended up being, despite the extra 2 miles and the fatigue that comes with that, ended up being like 10th overall or 16th overall, 10th man, and finished in 4 hours and 44 minutes. So, an extra 30 minutes out there, because who doesn't like the trails, right? So yeah, he was alive and well. He wasn't responding to the text though, because when he had hit his drop bag, he put the phone in the drop bag. So thankfully we were able to find him, and all is well. While Lois was doing that and taking care of Tim, I managed to find a bunch of my Rapid City Black Hills friends underneath the tent. Chris Riley had finished the 50-mile. He ended up being 3rd male, 4th overall in a time of, according to the tracker, in a time of 7 hours and 51 minutes. So congrats to Chris. I know Black Hills 100 didn't go the way he had planned, and he had a lot of fitness still built up and was able to use it at this race. So congrats to Chris. Didn't see Tara at the finish line, but Tara Ness from Sioux Falls had finished 2nd female, 5th overall, just under 8 hours in a time of like 7:56. So congrats to Tara. And also at the finish line, I did find friend Teresa Lewis. She's also from the Rapid City area, and she had run the 30-mile. She ended up being 1st female overall, or 1st female and 8th overall, time of like 5 hours, 24 minutes. So she crushed it. She has been crushing it all year, winning races left and right, here, there, and everywhere, either winning outright or apparently she's old enough to be a master. She doesn't look or act, well, she does act, she's responsible, but she doesn't look old enough to be a master, but she's a master of everything. So congrats to Teresa on that win as well. Wes was also under the tent there. He had run the 30 miles as well. Had come in just a few minutes ahead of Teresa, so he would have been 7th overall. And then, yeah, while we waited, Hannah came in for her finish, had a great strong finish. She ran a very, like I said, steady, persistent, patient race. She ended up being 5th overall, or 10th overall, 5th female, in a time of 9 hours and 26 minutes, give or take some. So congrats to Hannah on a great race. It was fun to tag along with you and yeah, experience lean horse for the first time. I love crewing, and she made it very simple, and she wasn't quite sure what she was doing, but yet she was. It's ultra running, you just figure it out as you go. It's part of the puzzle. So congrats to Hannah on a great race, great finish. While she and Tim were still recovering and taking in their fluids, another JWBN athlete and friend, Sid, came in for her 50-mile finish. This was her first 50-mile as well. She took on Pound the Mound 30-mile back in May and had won the female division there. So this was her big race all year that she's been planning for, thanks to some encouragement from her boss and run club friends, to do hard things. And so she signed up for the 50-mile. She hadn't run a marathon before training for this race. So Sid's just a great human being. Super proud of her. She finished 7th female, 16th overall, and she beat her goal by coming in under 10 hours, time of about 9 hours and 55 minutes. So big congrats to Sid. So glad that I could see you at the finish line there. Send you off as you depart Sioux Falls, which we're sad to see you leave, but so glad that you were able to find us and hang out with us at Run Club, and so proud of you for taking on this race and doing so well. And then after Sid came in, I gathered my runners and we packed up back in our car to go lay down elsewhere where it's cool. We did find Dairy Queen on the way home because, Hannah and Tim were winners for finishing their farthest distance yet, and they needed ice cream, as did the crew. So hit up Dairy Queen, got our ice cream, got back to our cabin, chilled the rest of the evening. While we were out there chilling, was able to continue with the tracker, and Britt Bull dug deep for those last 15 miles, got her done in a time under 30 hours. Britt finished the 100 in about 29 hours and 15 minutes. Last year she had to drop out of this race, the 100-mile race. I think she made it about 70 miles. Just had some very bad GI issues and from dehydration and whatnot. So just the determination and grit she had to get that done. And her mom did a fantastic job of solo crewing her through it all. So very proud of Britt, very proud of Britt's mom for taking care of her. So again, super shout out to Britt. Congrats to you on getting that done. One more shout out, Mike Bent from Rapid City area, another friend, did the 100-mile as well. He finished the 100 in 22 hours and 35 minutes. So congrats to Mike on his finish for the 100 as well. Congrats to everybody that was out there, toed the line, got her done, didn't get her done. Like I said, it looks a lot easier on paper than it is. So congrats to everybody out there. Lean Horse, like I said, great race to check out, especially if you're more into that first time ultra thing. It's, like I said, rail to trail, not too technical. The sun can get to you, the hills can start to get to you because they're long stretches, 5 to 10 miles up or down a hill. But it's a doable thing. You can death march it out. So go ahead, check them out next year for their races if that's something you want to do. Would recommend. Like I said, that was my first time out there. I think they did a pretty good job of putting it on. 8 stations were pretty well run. Had all the great ice water. Always had that flowing, and snacks for people if they wanted that. So congrats to the Lean Horse Ultra for continuing on, and to all those friends and strangers for doing what they did out there. So that's what I've got for this episode. A little bit of Lean Horse Ultra rundown. Next weekend, hoping to do one more Ultra. 4 weekends in a row of being present at an Ultra type event. Next weekend is 7 Summits. Great event. Check out the Facebook page. You can still get in on it if you want. So check out, there's a Facebook event. Check out the Rapid City Black Hills Running Club. I think Chris has posted about it if you want to check out what 7 Summits is and maybe see you out there. So yeah, catch you on the flip side. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
This has been a JWBN production. Thanks for listening.